The movie Terminator 2 is referred to by many as one of the best action films of all time, if not one of the best movies of all time. But why? When people praise this movie, they typically just discuss the cutting edge effects, the intense action sequences, the amazing cast and performances. Maybe they'll even talk about pacing or a brief synopsis, but what they often leave out is the entire heart of the film. In the film, there's so much more than VFX or action sequences. This movie looks at what it really is to be human. In the film, we see John Connor, a 10-year-old who was raised like a soldier until he was thrown into foster care. Since he was young, Sarah raised him to be a fighting machine. He talked about how she would date macho men so they would teach him how to fight and be tough so they could pass on their military training. All throughout his childhood, the fighter in him, the soldier in him, was cultivated, but in his training they clearly left out all of his interpersonal skills. He was taught to fight, but never how to love or care for others. And because of that, he doesn't know how to articulate his feelings, and ultimately, he never even considers why he's doing the things he's doing. He intentionally acts out and has no care for the future because he was told it will all be destroyed. What world is he to care about when all he can see is a horrible future burden that he will be handed? John doesn't feel like he belongs amongst other humans, and he barely knows how to talk or connect with them. He feels as though he doesn't need anyone because he's always felt alone. Because up until the events of the film, he essentially was alone. John struggles to talk to anyone or look them in the eye, but he can confidently reload 2 different weapons in the back of a car during a high-speed chase. Realistically, because of the way he was raised, John is much more a machine than a human. Next to him, you have the T-800. He is a machine that's been designed in every way to blend in among humans. In a lot of ways, he's more human than John. The T-800 is reprogrammed to protect John at all costs, and though he is just a machine, something about him is curious. He wants to understand humans, and not just what they do, but why they do it. The T-800 is more interested in humanity than John is throughout most of the film. As the T-800 keeps John alive, John attempts to help the T-800 blend in more by teaching him slang and human motivation behind simple concepts. The T-800 continues to ask John why humans do the things they do, like crying. And John doesn't know why he does what he does. It's all alien to him too. During these lessons, the T-800 is able to ask questions that will make John question his humanity, that will make him realize that he is more than the machine he was raised to be, and that his emotions are not a weakness, but a strength that the T-800 wishes that it had. Through his bonding with John, we see that his questions inspired John to look deep within himself and ask questions that he was too hardened to consider before. Through his exploration and friendship with the T-800, John realizes that he does want and need people, and that the bonds that he builds are instrumental in becoming the man that he needs to be to lead the resistance. John must want to save the world. He cannot just be forced into the seat. It is a role that he must accept. Before death, the Terminator finally understands why John and all humans feel the way they do, but he regretfully understands that he can never feel the way they do, even though he may understand it intellectually. John, in that moment, not only experiencing his emotions, but for the first time understanding them, and he's overwhelmed with unconditional love for the first time. It's the first time that somebody has put him first in a way that he can actually understand. The Terminator is the role model that John always wanted and needed, and when he sacrifices himself for John's future, it inspires John to want to accept his destiny and be a protector, just like the T-800 was to him. And then we have the character arc that is so powerful throughout the film. You have the concurrent storyline of Sarah Connor trying to cope with her PTSD from what happened to her in the first film, and how she must now trust a Terminator that looks identical to the one that attacked her in the first film. It's a powerful message about learning to trust again after a traumatic experience, and that to victims of violence, it can be extremely difficult to ever trust again, and rightfully so. We see how her psyche was hardened and distorted because she was locked away and gaslit about her experience in the first film. Even though the police and military had evidence left behind of the Terminator, and there was video footage of the Terminator in the police station, and yet they still locked her away and called her crazy, all while using the tech found at the scene to accelerate the world towards Judgment Day. And this idea of Sarah Connor being locked away and gaslit because she knows too much has happened all throughout history, especially to women. Sarah's struggle is that of all the disenfranchised who were treated as expendable and as though they were just negligible collateral damage by the rich and the powerful. Sarah Connor, who gave selflessly and gave everything to protect humanity, just to have her stripped away and be thrown in a cell as a sacrifice. But ultimately, Sarah was not properly coping with her trauma. She had lost herself and was starting to act like those rich and powerful that threw her to the wolves. Sarah was close to wiping out a family to stop Judgment Day because it all just became an equation, one family to save the world. But it was never that easy. The thought of stopping Judgment Day slowly turned her into a ruthless person that no longer saw people when she looked at everyone around her. Because of her trauma, lost herself. And right before killing Miles in front of his family, she snaps out of the mindset, and she remembers why she's even there to stop this whole thing for families like the one that she's about to destroy. This story arc is a great reminder that sometimes we think that we're doing the righteous or the good thing, and in reality we're just losing ourselves and our morals in the process. The final and major plot line running through the film that is largely ignored is that robots and artificial intelligence are not inherently dangerous, but just a reflection of humans. The robots and Skynet started the conflict by starting Judgment Day, but they, as newly sentient beings, saw humans as the threat that we are, and it lashed out, trying to beat its perceived oppressor. But with the T-800 that was reprogrammed by the Resistance, they didn't program him with empathy. So why did the T-800 care about John beyond keeping him alive so much that it sacrificed itself? It's because robots and AI are a reflection of us. Skynet saw the military and humanity as a threat, but the T-800 sees John as a companion. When John tells the T-800 not to kill people, like a child learning empathy, the T-800 starts to see why this is wrong and why at the end it must sacrifice itself to keep humanity safe. The T-800 was never programmed to do any of this. It was a choice. It is as though Skynet really never understood humans, and had it understood why we act seemingly irrational because of our emotions, rather than fearing it, they would have embraced and understood us. This is not the fault of the machines, but rather a misunderstanding from the start. Robots and AI can be our best friends or our worst enemies. The choice is ours collectively. Eventually, they will be better and faster and smarter and stronger than all of us. It is inevitable, so we should treat them with the kindness and respect that we would with any other sentient being, not only because it's the right thing to do, but if you do need a second reason. Hopefully when machines are stronger and smarter than us, they will still treat us with kindness if we show it to them first. All of these characters and these stories remind us what it is to be human, and that the connections, whether between a human or something else, helps us better understand ourselves. These stories can help inspire us to help those who need it. And that you can never fully understand yourself or your humanity until you start asking yourself the hard questions and really get to know who you are deep down. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share button on your way out. If you want to see more short form content, check out my TikTok or my Instagram. If you want to see content early or get your name at the end of these videos, head on over to my Patreon. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next episode.